Hello, welcome back. Hi, welcome to Most Amazing Top 10. This one's pretty dark, I'm not gonna lie. I'm Taylor McWaters, and here are the top 10 evil experiments that terrified scientists. Yeah, they're like, nope, not doing this one. Kicking off our list at number 10, mini brains. Yeah, mini brains with little tiny mini eyes. That's where we'll start today. Yeah, welcome back, I guess. August 2021, a strange but daring group of scientists announced that they had grown a little human brain, equipped with its own set of eyes. Yeah, it's actually not called a mini brain, of course, that's a bit much. Its scientific term is organoid, or organoid. I'm not really sure. Organoid sounds like something you'd order at a restaurant. An organoid sounds like an instrument. The entire goal here was for scientists to understand eye disease furthermore, right? These organoids, these organoids come from stem cells, and ideally growing organoids allows researchers to study how organs develop and provide new information into how organs could react early to specific treatments. So they're like little mini tiny what ifs and little signs. Little tiny balls of what ifs, essentially, that have eyes. They're really kind of gross to look at. Little brains with eyes equals science. The more you know. Number 9, daddy shortlegs. I'm not a fan of the bug or its name, so here we go. Calling a bug daddy or like daddy longlegs, that's so weird to me. I've never liked that. Even as a kid, I'm like, that's not right. Now we might have to add daddy shortlegs to the mix. That's a real thing. A lot of dads in the bush. Let's talk about them. Scientists have recently created a version where daddy longlegs' legs are stunted at birth. Therefore, they're daddy shorter legs. By doing this, they were able to study what they looked like millions of years ago. The daddy longlegs, right now, it has a unique way of hunting and moving around. But once the legs were shorter, it almost went back to a form of travel that could only be seen 400 million years ago. It started to move differently, which is kind of cool. How far back do we need to go to get rid of the word daddy? That's my next question. Is that 500 million years? Maybe 600? It's a bug named daddy. Why do we do this? Number 8, undead as a dog. Any dog lovers out there? Awesome. Hit that thumbs up and also maybe skip to the next one. I don't know. A team of Russian scientists released a video in which they showed a few dog heads that were being kept alive by an artificial blood circulation system. No, we're not going to show the video. Sickos. But we can certainly talk about the video. I can do that for you. In the video, the scientists use a heart-lung machine and they're able to show the dog's head responding to sound. Now, scientifically, that's wild. That's a feat, no doubt. Awesome. You guys nailed it. But walking into this room by accident, that's gotta be pretty jarring, pun intended. They would wiggle their ears, they would blink their eyes, and sometimes they were even able to lick their mouths. So that's a terrifying thing to imagine, all just one head. In 2005, for some reason, American scientists began to try and recreate this horrifying experiment. So they flushed out all the blood from a dog and replaced it with oxygen and sugar saline, all that horrible stuff. And then 3 hours after this, and then after a blood transfusion and of course an electrical shock, the dog somehow was brought back to life. Yeah, I wish I knew the purpose or like the end game of this experiment, but couldn't tell you. I mostly wish I just never knew it, to be honest with you, and that we never included it, but it's too late. Number 7, robot dog. This one's a lot better, I promise. Nothing like the last one. Imagine meeting a cyborg version of you. Imagine being a dog and you had to meet another cyborg dog. That's gotta be pretty horrifying. Well, that was the pitch back in 2003 when researchers from the University in Budapest and the Sony Computer Science Laboratory in Paris got together. Yeah, a dream team, some would say. The world was never the same. They're like, should we make Spider-Man movies? They're like, yeah, this first right now. And put this robot dog near the real dog's food. So when the real dog ate, it was growling, it was watching this other thing, and then ultimately it took a chomp and threw it across the room. This robot dog. It could be the fact that something was near its food source in general, but still probably uneasy that a robot dog is staring at it like, you know, it's trying to eat. Imagine that in the morning, just looking at you. It's like, hey, am I bugging you? You're like, kind of, yes. You can buy Abo, the cyborg dog, for an easy $3,000 right now. Or you could adopt, you know, that's always great and preferred too. Number 6, Stubbins Ffirth. Okay, this is one of the craziest science projects I have ever heard of. We're getting a little real now. Here we go. A researcher from Pennsylvania back in the late 1700s, well, first of all, as you can probably guess, methods back then were gross. They were really messy. They didn't know what they were doing. A lot of firsts in the medical science world, including Ffirth. Ffirth was a doctor in training at the time, and he decided to prove to the world that yellow fever was not contagious. Yeah, imagine if he had Twitter right now. know what I mean? Ffirth would surgically insert vomit, like vomit, from patients with yellow fever. He would insert that liquid of vomit into his body. He would put this stuff in his wounds, all over his face, his eyes, his pores. He was trying to get it in everything. He was purposely going the extra mile, all in the name of medical research. I'm gonna throw up now. This is so gross. Even urine or saliva, anything that was, in your body, just pour it on, that's it. Just like in Uh-Oh, that TV show where the guy dumps the bucket of goop on the person who gets the trivia question wrong. Just like a bucket of that stuff, just poured right on. And to everybody's surprise, he did not get sick afterwards at all. He was pretty proud of that one. He told everybody this scientific breakthrough. We look back now though, and we realize that Ffirth just sampled late stage patients. So they were further along, much further than the contagious period. So basically he did all this for nothing. He volunteered to dump all over his, yeah. History's gross. Science as well, very gross. Just a lot of gross Ffirths in the community. Number 5, the monster study. Speech pathologists, miracle workers most of the time, except for 1939. Back in 1939, speech pathologists at the University of Iowa, they were determined to crack the secret behind stuttering. If you find out the key source, then you can kind of trace back to the problem, yada yada. Sure, I get it. But they believed that it all began with young adults and their fear of public speaking. So these researchers decided to intimidate people and try and induce stuttering. Yeah, they got patients who were showing signs of stuttering early and they verbally attacked them. They kept telling them they shouldn't speak unless they're sure they can do so properly. They were yelling at them, making it very intense on purpose. The experiment did not induce stuttering at all, rather it induced extreme anxiety. Yeah, obviously. Hence why it was referred to as the monster study. 3 of these patients later sued Iowa and the university for $925,000. Yeah, you can't be scaring people. Number 4, Francis Crick. As we go on further, we kind of have to have a laugh. The last few have been pretty f***ed up. Back in the early 1900s, Francis Crick, aka the guy who discovered DNA alongside James Watson, 2 brilliant minds, dare I say these life-changing discoveries. Well, it was also announced back then that they also believed in directed transpermia, meaning that humans were put on this planet by aliens. Yeah, like extraterrestrial, like aliens. That's what they fully believed in. The DNA guys believe that we're aliens. So you're like, okay, what's right, what's wrong? What do we do here? Some of his methods involved conversations to patients, real patients. He was a doctor. He'd be like, hey, let's talk about DNA. Also, did you know that aliens planted us here? Cool, I'm Francis Crick. No, that's alarming. Don't do that. Number 3, worm diet. Apologies if you're eating right now. I know myself, I like to snack out and watch YouTube videos late at night. This one, maybe not. Maybe skip this one. Hit the thumbs up and skip it. It's really gross. Back in 1878, Giovanni Battista Grassi covered himself with worms, all in the name of science. His trick, well, his method rather, was to ingest worm eggs, which he kept after autopsies. That's horrible. That's the worst thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Weird hobby, even weirder project. Some parasitologists would argue that this project changed the game and, improved their medical knowledge, yada yada, but I still think it's the grossest thing that I've ever heard on this planet, and who would do such a thing? I had to mention it. Science rules, I guess, right? Science rules. Number 2, inner armor. We've all wanted to be a superhero at some point. When you're watching the movie halfway through, you're like, you know what? I really do want that. I want that technology just blasted on my chest, sure. Well, DARPA's Inner Armor project was the Pentagon's way of creating super soldiers. Scientists use animals as reference for these new abilities, like literally from a Marvel movie. Right now, they're studying the DNA of the stellar sea lion because it can reduce blood flow away from organs if need be, in order to reduce oxygen demand. So that would be pretty sweet. You can just stay underwater forever, ideally. That's a cool superpower to have, I guess. Dr. Michael Callahan, who is in charge of running this whole operation, he says the goal is to make soldiers kill-proof against disease, chemical weapons, radioactive weapons, harsh weather conditions, everything, you name it. Now, this was back in 2007, and of course, in 2014, Barack Obama announced that the United States is building Iron Man armor. Put these two together, we have Superman, I guess. That's exciting on one hand, but do we think this is a good idea? Like, where is this gonna go? What if somebody decides to be an awful human being wearing all of these, vests of armor? Am I crazy? Comment down below if you think an Iron Man suit of armor would be a good or a terrible idea. I vote terrible. And finally, number 1, go pills. Look out, 5-hour energy. It's game over. Pack your shit. You're you're fired. These guys have you beat. Every time I watch Lord of the Rings, I fall asleep. Look, I can't help it. It's a great film, sure, but it's just so cozy. The music, it tucks me right in. I don't know. But that's not an issue in the real world, is it? No, not at all. Overnight truck drivers staying awake all night, military personnel that needs to be awake all night for operations or for days at a time, that's a bit more important. Definitely. And that's where Go pills were supposed to come in handy. The pill that keeps you up for 40 hours straight. 40 hours, that's insane. The US Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA for short, is currently funding this pill. Would you want this? Would you ever touch this? I wouldn't do this personally. The benefits it would have, they sound great, but again, right now they're not sure if the long-term side effects are worth it. You don't want people hallucinating mid-flight. You know what I mean? That's bad news. But I'd get through a game of Mario Party 50 turns, so. Those are the top 10 evil experiments that terrified scientists. I've been Taylor McWaters, you've been you. See you next time, bye. List at number 10, mini brains. Or Brian's, cause that's what I wrote. Even though I didn't, we're gonna lie today, Chris. I do it often, this is the one time I didn't. I forgot I did this one's so dumb. Well, first of all, as you could probably guess, methods. That's my up tea. And their public fear of speaking. That's not a thing. It's like those teachers, I don't know what school it was, but these teachers are in a lot of trouble. They put on masks during Halloween and they were yelling at the kids. We probably can't show this or show any of this, but it's a pretty up video. They got charged.